guess we need to call the work session to order.
County Attorney Smith.
And do you have
I do. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Orange County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following: discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose with respect to the area in the Germanna Wilderness Plan, where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of public body. Discussion concerning prospective business or industry, the expansion of existing business or industry with respect to the area of the Germanna Wilderness Plan, where no previous announcement is made of business or industry's interest in locating or expanding facilities in the community. Discussion consideration of the investment of public funds with respect to the Germanna Wilderness Area Plan, where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affected. Whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 37, A3, A5, A6 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Orange County is hereby authorized discussion of forestated matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And we'll be back down here at 5 o'clock.
Is that a promise? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sorry.
We need to certify.
Certify.
Oh, sorry, we came out
As you were.
as we were. Hang on.
Members of the board, to the best of your knowledge, were the only matters discussed in the closed meeting, public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and that only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. First is Mr. Frame, and he's absent. Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Crozier,
Aye.
Mr. Goodwin,
Aye.
and Mr. White.
Aye.
4-0.
Okay. All right. Since I opened the meeting already, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's see. Mr. David, I think you have a couple of
Yes, sir.
changes to the agenda.
Yes, sir. I'd like to, I'd add item C under my report, announcement of our new fire and EMS chief and our new emergency communications center director.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Okay, special presentation appearances, service awards, Mr. David.
Yes, sir. We have 2 awards this evening, Mr. Chairman. I think we have one of our recipients attending here.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm honored and privileged to present Letitia Douthit is getting a 15-year service award. She's our Children's Services Act Coordinator in our Office on Youth. A very important job with the county, so she's here to receive. Come on up.
They won't get as good a picture of you if you. All right, congratulations, and thank you, 15 years, my goodness.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The other receiving award is Lewis Davis. He's receiving a 10-year service award, and he's a custodian with our Public Works Department. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, business spotlight. Jenny Sanford, owner of Central Virginia Wine Tours.
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you guys? Just take these. So my name's Jenny Sanford, and just a little bit about who I am. I'm originally from Virginia Beach and went to James Madison University to get my master's in elementary education. And then taught in Stanton and met my now husband, Stephen Sanford, whose family is born and raised here on his dad's side. And we ended up moving here, and now I teach in Albemarle County. So that's great.
And the teaching makes you have an interest in wines, I guess. Funny how that dot gets connected.
You should talk to a couple teachers. Maybe. But yeah, so about 6 years ago, Stephen actually was working at the Inn at Willow Grove. He was answering phone calls, and he would get calls, from DC residents coming down to escape and unwind and have a good time in Orange. And they'd always be like, "Hey, can you drive me to Barbersville? Can you drive to dinner?" And he would be like, "Well, that's really great. No, I can't drive you around, but I can point you in the right direction." So he did come home and said that he wanted to figure out how to write an LLC and start seeing if we could provide some safe and reliable transportation for guests in Orange County. Fast forward now, it's been about 6 years, and he's doing it full time. We have a 6-passenger Cadillac Escalade, 2 of them, a 14-passenger minibus, an 18-passenger limousine bus, and a 20-passenger limousine bus. And people are coming here like crazy. It's really exciting to watch the industry grow. Every time you turn around, there's something new coming up, whether it be a vineyard or a brewery in the area, or wedding transportation has been really great as well. So we have been working with that. Our current vision is that we want to provide transportation for locals at an affordable cost. So seeing it during the week time, hopefully going into the weekends where you can kind of sell a ticket and you can get on the bus and kind of go around the local places at a discounted rate for local residents. So that's going to be our next one. That's on the large card that I had given you. And our long-term goals are to continue to provide transportation, expand our vehicles, and partner with as many people in the community as we can. And something that's unique for us is our routes. So we have a special local tour, and we've partnered with several of the different vineyards that apply different discounts and things for our clients. So we hope that that will just continue to keep going. And I think that you have to pardon me. Sorry. I also am having a baby in 5 weeks, so my pregnancy brain is a little all over the place, and I was in my classroom all day today, so you know how that works. But yeah, so I think the most important thing is that we really want to know what everybody wants in town and what you guys want to see, because we know what people out of town want to see and what they need as terms of transportation, but how can we best serve our local community?
Very good.
Thank you very
Great.
much for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, Mr. Saunders. This young lady needs roads to drive on, so you're gonna
See what we can
see
do.
what we can do.
And Chairman White, members of the board, good evening. My name is Alan Saunders, here to provide your VDOT quarterly update. I'll briefly review your latest monthly report and address any questions that you may have. I want to start out with Smart Scale. The county did a great job. We've been talking about Smart Scale since October of last year, and you did a really good job identifying the 5 projects and getting your applications in by the 8th. The next step is really the evaluation and scoring by the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and we look to see those scores in early 2019. Your projects, we're continuing to dry out and press forward with all of the ongoing projects. On Route 606 Catharpin, we've scheduled the hard surfacing for that next week.
Oh, really?
So if we can go a week dry, we're gonna recompact it, grade it, and shoot it over about 5 days. So we're gonna get that one next week. Route 603, Indiantown, that's ongoing, and we're shifting resources back away from some of the flood repair damage that we've been working on. And we're also gonna augment some of our team with a contractor to try to help get caught up on those. Thankfully, the first section of 603 was the hard one. As we get into the western leg, that one's in much better shape. So we've got a few drainage items there to get, and we'll be able to hard surface it. So as long as we can stay out in front of the weather and we get some dry weather over the next 8 weeks, we'll get that caught up. Route 608, thankfully, that one's ongoing too. It's wet, but we're gonna continue to work on that as the subgrade dries out. Route 617, 627, and 707, those are the segments of roadway from the Battlefield Farms nursery up to 522. And we do have a plan there to hard surface that with our plant mix contractor. We're gonna trench widen, which is adding a minimal amount of width on each side, full depth pavement, and then widen it with an overlay. And we're going on the tail end of their plant mix contract, but our goal is to get that done this year. And they're a little behind schedule, but we're still going, if we can get some dry weather, they'll get caught up, and we're gonna try to tack that in on the end of their schedule. Route 320 Motors will continue to see work in that intersection. The signal replacement, there's four small projects going on at once. The signals, the grade and drain work, the paving, and the guardrail. So those are gonna be in different pieces going on at the same time over the next 4 to 6 months. The West Wind Drive Rural Addition, we've initiated the design work now that that project's funded, and we're seeking environmental approvals. So we have most of the design complete, and our goal, again, is to begin working on that this season. Traffic engineering studies, we received a couple from the county that we've started on. The Route 3 arterial management plan also, we're looking forward to addressing that with the public and sharing that with the county schedule. The Route 20 EMS signal just east of 650, we're meeting with our traffic engineers in the morning, and that's one of our list of several topics to go over, is to get an estimate from them and the different options that we've got as far as signals and how that works on 20. On 630 also, we're gonna meet with them on 630 to review the barrier options across from, at the southeast quadrant of that approach.
Did you
There's a
see that
large gap.
drop off that I was talking?
There is a
Yeah,
large.
It's a
there's
little bit,
drop-off. And it needs to get fixed. So just trying to work through what the guardrail requirements are and what's permissible mechanically is the next step with them.
Okay,
So we just need to get them out there and review it with them. And then as far as our county safety and operational improvements, we're getting close to advancing the Route 15 North pavement marking improvements at Inwood Restaurant and right through there on Route 15. We presented a revised option to the town of Gordonsville in July and got a little bit, some feedback from them that we need to make some adjustments with. We're gonna give that back to them and hopefully get that scheduled this season. And we've also got some work that we're ongoing with the Orange County Agricultural Bureau. We've met with them a couple of times and they've expressed some concerns about some of the ag traffic around the community. And we've been looking at ways either through signage, using variable message signs, and even looking at a couple of locations on 522 where we can build pull-offs for agricultural traffic to get them out of the way with appropriate sight distance, and using our CSO money for that. But thankfully, we just got another allocation of that funding July the 1st, so we're looking for additional opportunities to make safety improvements. And gentlemen, that is all I have this evening. Can I answer any questions?
Two questions, Alan.
Yes, sir.
I don't think you mentioned West Wind Drive. Do you know where we are on that?
On West Wind Drive, the funding became available on July the 1st. We're advancing. We've started the design. It seems like it would be pretty simple, but we still have to do hydraulic calculations and size the culverts. And then the next step is the environmental review. So we've already started the design work. As soon as we get environmental clearance, we're gonna go out there and start grading. And again, similar to Catharpin, we may need to let that sit over the winter because the surface of West Wind Drive is pretty tough, but it has good bones. So if we get in there and we can do the grading, we can install the drainage and let traffic ride on it, and it tightens up this season, we'll hard surface it. If not, we'll wait until next year to do that based on the conditions. But we've started on that project.
Okay.
You don't see that because it's all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but as
Okay.
far as the surveyors, the surveyors have sent out letters to the citizens. So the residents that live on West Wind Drive, they'll be receiving letters from our surveyors. The surveyors will be out there surveying the perimeters of the project. They'll then be able to tell us the profile, where the water's going. We'll be able to size the culverts and then incorporate that into the environmental approvals. And as soon as we get our permits, we're gonna get out there and start working.
Okay. And I'd spoken to you about a little issue at Ehart where the roadway's kind of inching over onto a man's property. Did you ever get anything back on that, or?
We did, and I tried to contact him and call him to meet with him out there to review the right-of-way locations off of 33 in that location. And where as people cut that corner, especially they're doing logging down 64, the 644, then they're going to cut into that corner with a truck. And if there is something that we can do that won't pose a hazard to the traveling public on 33 within the clear zone, then there are some options, even simple things like delineators that we can put up that are sacrificial, that may discourage people from creeping over onto that corner. But it's right there at the right-of-way boundary, and it is a tough spot. But I understand his concerns because it is creeping over towards his fence
But,
on that southwest corner.
okay, so,
It's on our right-of-way. It's on the Commonwealth's right-of-way, right there. We've got 66 feet of right-of-way. It goes right up to the front fascia of the fence. But if he's thankfully mowing that for us and doing us a great favor by maintaining the road and improving the sight distance there at that intersection. If there's something that we can do on the inside of that corner with something even like a PVC delineator, then we're gonna try to put that in just to discourage people from getting even closer. We don't wanna put anything there that would cause a hazard to the
right,
public.
right.
But we can put some things that are sacrificial in nature that would discourage them from.
So you're gonna make another attempt to get a hold of him and meet with him, or do I need
I'm
to?
gonna go out there, we sent him a letter, and we
Uh-huh.
attempted to call him, and we haven't received any information back from him.
Okay,
So we've cold called him a couple times when we're in the area,
Okay.
and haven't gotten a response, but if we can, we would like to meet with him first and show him what our plan is, and then we'll follow up and do that.
okay.
And we still have the pavement markings across the street to fix too. That's on the list. Yes, sir, both those items.
Quick question for you regarding these rural rustic projects. Currently, they're 35-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Correct.
Being gravel roads. When they're completed as a rural rustic, do they then go back up to 55-mile-an-hour?
No, they'll be 35
They'll
miles
be
an hour.
35.
They have to be posted 35.
Okay, and they will be posted, correct?
They sure will
Because
be.
I know, Mr. White, that we both got phone calls about
Okay.
some of the routes, so.
They will be,
Okay.
they'll both be posted. Well, all of them will ultimately be posted. Once we get to the point where we've done the grading work and improved the sight distance,
Right.
the traffic engineers will then come behind and identify any warning signs that are necessary along the route, and then post the speed limit sign. So on Catharpin, we have a couple of subdivision streets, so as they come out and enter Catharpin, there'll be signage there and then at either end.
Okay, and I just wanna say the contractor you're using is doing a very good job.
Well, thank you.
They, very, very concerned about the people on the roads and,
Good.
accommodating the best that they can. So,
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's reassuring.
yep,
That is, thank
doing
you.
a nice job.
Since you mentioned a couple of roads off of Catharpin, as you know, there are a handful of potential rural additions, I guess is what you would call them, that you've been looking at and doing some studies on. And I guess my question is, how do we bring that to some closure for the residents? I get calls continuously wanting either updates or asking specific questions about things, and I really don't have a complete set of answers to give them at this point, so, not now, but at some point, we need to figure out, either to say to these people, here are the things that you would have to do before, or it's not possible, or it might be possible, but it's, gonna be in the next 6-year cycle, or whatever the answers are, because some of them have some severe complications and expense from the data I've seen so far, so, and in one case, apparently the road is just an easement, and there's no right of way at all. And so there are those kind of issues, but we need to find a way to, and I suspect that everybody runs into this when we have discussions underway with the citizens there, they want to know what the end game is and when, and all of those kind of questions, and we're not very well prepared to give them that information yet. And I don't wanna just send them to you, as their only source, cause we keep loading your plate up more fully, and
Well,
if
that's
you
why
have
we're
room,
there.
we'll give you some more, so.
That's why we're there. We'll put it on the list and you prioritize it for us and we'll knock it out. But with that one, similar to the two recent projects, whether it was Oak Springs or Harbor Drive, we'll do an evaluation, we'll compare it to the subdivision street requirements, give you an estimate, and then let you share that, and we can meet with them at any point and go through, these are the requirements, this is what we see, and this is what we think it would cost to improve. And then from there, it really is a determination between us how those are gonna get funded and improved.
Right, yeah, there's at least, there are 5, there are the 2 off Catharpin, plus the end of 650, plus Oak Springs, plus Harbor. I think there was another one, at least, but yeah, those are all, underway, whatever that means at this point, we need to butt them up.
Is there anywhere on VDOT's website that explains like you do to a landowner? When we met out on, Indian Town Road, the landowner had was very unhappy and said that you were saying one thing and I was saying something else. We were saying the exact same thing, but in my world, construction starting is one thing, and in your world, construction starting is something else. Is there anywhere they can go on the website to get a better understanding of VDOT terminology?
For bringing roads into the secondary system, there is information dedicated to that. For the rural rustic process itself and the design requirements behind it, that's there, but it may warrant interpretation.
If somebody in your IT department or something might look at it I think it would make your life a lot easier as well as supervisors throughout the Commonwealth.
We try to point people to a webpage, but sometimes the robots just don't do a good job communicating.
Absolutely.
And then if we'll find the time and meet with them, that is worth a world of.
Absolutely, but we have one
But
that,
if I can find something, yes, sir, I
Yeah.
sure will.
because we have one that we've met with and Allison's become best friends with, so,
You too?
oh, yes, oh, yes.
I
Okay,
have no
Thank-
questions for Alan because he and I already spoke.
Yeah, thank you, Alan, I
Yes, sir.
truly appreciate
yeah,
what you're doing.
We'll keep you busy.
Great, yes, sir.
A
That's
lot
what we're
going
here
on.
for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, new business, resolution supporting Montpelier grant application. Mr. David.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I bring to you tonight a request from the Montpelier Foundation. Just as a brief background, the Virginia Department of Conservation runs or administers a recreational trails program. This program is available in annual cycles, and what it does is it uses federal transportation dollars that are passed through to the Department of Conservation and Recreation to promote the building of recreational trails, and these are different types of trails. But generally, these are made to city, county governments, park authorities, those type of quasi-governmental entities. However, one of the other provisions of this is that nonprofit entities, when partnered with a governmental body, are also eligible to compete for funding. So I come to you tonight because Montpelier is proposing to construct just a little over 4 miles of multi-use hiking and mountain biking trails at James Madison's Montpelier. And I'll quote from the grant application: "These proposed trails are envisioned as the first phase of an eventual 20-plus mile network of mountain biking trails at Montpelier, which would increase tourism to Orange County by making Montpelier a premier mountain biking destination in central Virginia, as well as providing unparalleled recreational opportunities for local users. What these trails will do will link to the existing 8 miles of trails, hiking trails that are out there, and all these trails will be open and free to the public 7 days a week during normal business hours. In fact, in talking with Ms. Imhoff and others at Montpelier, this really becomes an attraction for the community, but also visitors to the community. The other is, you've seen in the agenda package, I've got a complete copy of the grant application, letters of support from Reynolds Subaru, Woodbury Forest, Miller School of Albemarle, Culpeper Area Mountain Biking Organization. Also, Lori Landis Carter, we found this from, what was the website, Lori? Single Tracks. It's like a web zine for all the mountain bikers, and these were by the numbers, and so it just kind of give you an idea of what these visitors do. Last, I'll be available to answer any questions, but Christine Moriarty from Montpelier is here to answer any questions. Lori Landis Carter, certainly from her tourism perspective, and Tim's in the back there from his Parks and Rec feature. But I think everybody here, at least on the staff level, is very excited about this opportunity.
Okay.
I move we adopt the resolution.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen. Appreciate the support, and we
Thank you.
will keep you posted on this. They'll be going through their grant process, and we'll come back with some additional information, and there may be some additional decisions for the board to make and how better to support this project. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll take it up in the future. And
Okay.
wish every luck to get it awarded, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Old business, ZTA 1805. Mr. Frederick.
Gentlemen, You have in your packet, a red line copy and a clean copy of a revised, what we used to call the T and D district. Recall with the zoning text amendment, we had 3 planned districts. At your last meeting, your instructions to me were to revise the T and D to be more of a residential-centric district, which we did. Borrowing some of the terminology from the Germano Wilderness Area Plan, we crafted this to be more of a form-based district, which means things are more focused on the way things look and the community that is built, rather than traditional setbacks and frontage and things like that. So it gives the developer a lot more flexibility to craft his development how he sees fit, based on market demand. I'll stop there. Again, you have a clean copy and a red line copy to assist in your review, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I like the changes. I think it really opens it up and gives a lot more flexibility to do some creative designs. I did find a section that I'm not sure I completely understand. It would be line 141. See if I can direct you any better than that. It's a number 2, says multiple forms of housing required. And it says that at least 3 forms must be provided. And it says no more than 40% should be at Form 1. And then it says this may be increased to 60%, provided that Form 2 is utilized for every lot above the 40%. Is the only difference between Form 1 and Form 2 the accessory apartment?
Yes.
What are we thinking there?
The goal, again, the requirement for the different types of housing is to provide different levels of, different types of housing to different socioeconomic groups. What you run into with the single-family dwelling developments is they cater to one specific demographic. And not that that's bad, but when you're trying to create workforce housing in varied communities like that, it's really difficult to do. So that was done purposeful to get people to, or get developers to include accessory dwellings, which are capped at 800 square feet. They tend to be lower in rent or lower in cost, again, to try to provide a different type of housing for a different demographic.
So the thought is that second dwelling unit basically would become, in some cases at least, a rental unit as opposed to a family member or that kind of thing, but a rental unit primarily.
Potentially, or even elderly housing, which this county will need more of, for certain. Or an age-in-place type atmosphere, if you will.
Okay. It struck me, seems like in the past and in most districts, we have, I guess I'll say, discouraged accessory dwelling units, and here we seem to be encouraging. And maybe the circumstances are unique enough that's appropriate. It's a shift, if you will, or at least it appeared to be a shift. I'm trying to do the math when we say all of the bonus density would have to be that form.
Really, the attempt there was not to completely preclude a single-family dwelling dominant type development, but it was to try to vary the uses a little more if the developer chooses to have that as the predominant type of dwelling unit.
I'm trying to, there's a constraint matrix that we're building here correctly, so we're saying you have to have 3 types. No more than 40% can be the single family, the Form 1, but if you increase that 40 to 60, all of those additional ones have to be Form 2.
So realistically, let's say if we had a 100-lot development, 40 could be single-family dwellings, that's it.
Right.
20 would have to be single-family dwellings with either accessory dwellings over the garage or something else to that effect. And then you'd have the remaining 40 is whatever the developer chooses.
Could be of any one type,
Right.
because that would trigger the three. I mean, I suppose that could work. I just, do we have examples of where some plans like that are working? Well, I guess, let me ask you a better question. Are we being creative, or has this been tested in other places?
That was barred from the T&D, the traditional neighborhood type developments. Those, if you'll remember, the old district had what's called a transect in it.
Right,
And transect, it basically radiates from high density to low density. And in doing so, you have different types of housing in each one. Every T&D, granted, those are more urbanized type developments, but every one that I have seen has been successful, for what it's worth.
I guess the only question in my mind is, should we, given the objective that you're talking about there, should we give an option that those bonus densities get used up either in F2 or, I don't know what the other one would be, or some other type.
Some other type, but where is the question?
So I might have
I mean, to me, there's a little difference between an F2 and an F4, which is a duplex for those who don't have this material in front of them. And it seems to me it might even in some cases be more appropriate to have a duplex or an F4 as opposed to the F2. And I don't want to get too much down in the weeds here, but I guess I would suggest that we, give a little bit of relief on that, requiring it be F2, and let it be either, F2, 3 or 4, just as an example, because I think duplex, it should, and they certainly are compatible with single families if it's laid out properly. That's the only one that gave me pause. I would propose that we at least consider adding the words to that line, that instead of saying F2, it would be 2, 3, or 4.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I was trying to pull this up while you were talking. Which section are we looking at?
Line 143.
On the red line version.
I'm sorry, on the red line version. Because I can see a situation where a neighborhood actually would not want those accessory units. They would prefer a duplex or one of the styles of duplexes. The line that would be changed, yeah, that would be 143. This may be increased to 60% provided that form F2, 3, or 4 is utilized for every lot above the 40%, something like that. Does that violate what you were thinking, or?
No, really the key here is diversity in housing type. So
Yeah.
it still accomplishes the goal, it's just another way of doing it.
Yeah.
So, no, that'd be fine.
A little more flexibility.
Anybody else have questions of Josh or comments?
I actually thought it flowed very well.
Yeah, I think this is something that it will attract some attention for people to use. So. Let's see. We're still within the confines of our previous public hearing on this, do you think, Tom? Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't made any, the changes aren't significant.
Okay, all right. So anybody want to make a motion to?
Yeah, you were?
Well, I was, and I hit the wrong thing on my computer and lost everything I had. I would make the motion, with that change, that it be for the.
Become
Have
F two, three, or
and
four. 2, 3, or
Yes.
4, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I somehow got way off where I was
I
supposed
would second that.
all right. Any more discussion on it? All right, I guess we need a roll call on this. Yes.
Yes, sir. Mr. White,
Aye.
Mr. Crozier,
Aye.
Mr. Frame is absent, Mr. Goodwin,
Aye.
and Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
4-0.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks, Josh.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I think that was, we required some extra work, but I think we have a better product at this point.
3.5 years in the making.
Yeah, what's an extra couple of weeks,
Yeah,
right?
right.
All right, great, thanks.
Thank you, Josh.
Let's see, no department director, constitutional officer report tonight, county attorney,
No report, Mr. Chairman.
okay. County administrator's report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just to give you an update on the Germanna Wilderness Area Plan work. As you see, we just finished the ordinances. I think that completes all the ordinance work for the Germanna Wilderness Area Plan. Recently, I've had some conversation actually with some developers about the ability to use the mixed-use designation for a significant development, and there seemed to be some interest, so we'll continue to work on that. The next thing I bring to your attention is our Route 3 arterial management plan that has been done by Michael Baker International. As you recall, the Virginia Department of Transportation funded about $150,000 to bring this significant engineering firm in to continue an access management plan that they had done for Route 3 between Interstate 95 and the Orange County, Spotsylvania boundary. This continued it on to the Rapidan River to the Culpeper Orange line. Mr. White, Mr. Crozier, Mr. Frame received a presentation of the results of that plan. I'll certainly let them comment on it, but I think it takes some, I guess, new ways of looking of how to, Alan's gone, a new way of looking of how you manage vehicles on what will be progressively a more congested roadway and maintaining levels of service that everybody can agree is suitable. And then that overlays with how do we manage north-south vehicle trips in the local vehicle trips to keep them off Route 3 without the use of stoplights. And I think the engineering solutions that have been brought forward are leading practical solutions. These aren't never been done ones, but they're ones that you aren't used to seeing here in Virginia. And it also looks at a relocation of Route 20 to more the west of, intersection of Route 20 and 3 to the west of where it is right now, since that really is not by any imagination a long-term, even with the turn lane extension, is going to be a long-term solution out there. What we're going to do is have another public town hall out September, October, Allison?
Early September is what they're looking at.
Okay,
Not a
at
month.
Locust Grove Middle School, again, we'll put it, all the word out and make sure everybody's at least aware of it. I know Lake of the Woods Channel 18 or 19 televises it. So that and earlier today, you all had a work session to begin diving into our master water and wastewater plan. So things are percolating along, and I think we're still making progress for sure.
Are we gonna see a final version of the Michael Baker work
That's a good.
before that town hall, or they wanna have the town hall and then finalize, or what is their?
It's my understanding that they'll have the town hall, and the public will have an opportunity to review the draft plan before it's finalized and presented.
Okay. When you said early September, are we looking into at least the second week?
I am tied a little bit by the dates from Michael Baker and VDOT, and right now what they're looking at is September 5th, and I know that's
If-
soon.
If there is another date available that is later,
The other two dates
I would
they provided
prefer.
was a board meeting night and a planning commission night, and I tried to avoid those as well.
was the planning commission the same week or a different week?
It was the same week.
Okay.
And that town hall will be similar to the way it was done last time with posters up and walk around.
But they have the lead on that,
The only reason I say that, I will be out of town that week, so.
I don't know if you two have anything to add on the.
Just that, as they did the plan, did a really good job, and they've also been very open to our comments and suggestions and questions. It's, so far, so good with it, other than the financial side of things, looks very good.
I think it was actually very helpful to have Alan attend that last meeting, because he
Really
looked at it from the standpoint of, having to actually do the work and manage the system, and he had some good ideas and some suggestions, particularly when it comes to moving Route 20, to use it, to do that a little bit differently and not necessarily build the whole thing at one time and the like. So I was gonna thank him for being there, but the record will reflect that, I guess. So, okay. And you have two more items.
Yes, sir. Next item is short-term rental of residential property. At your July 10th work session, you reviewed and discussed short-term rentals of residential property in Orange County. You all had good, extensive discussion and agreed to consider an ordinance amendment establishing a short-term rental registry. The Assistant County Attorney has prepared draft language in a draft short-term rental registry for you all to consider. It was in your package. I apologize because I got to edit my next paragraph because it's confused me, and I think I know what I was trying to say. The draft language is proposed as an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and thereby the zoning administrator would be the point of contact regarding the administration of the registry. The Board of Supervisors could ultimately designate another county official to serve as the registry, but then that would just be a regular ordinance. It wouldn't be part of the zoning ordinance. So if you decide to make it the zoning ordinance, then look at the county attorney, that would track through the planning commission just like any zoning text amendments. If you decide to make it a standalone ordinance with someone else designated as the administrator, then that would just go through a regular ordinance adoption process before the board.
Yeah, in fact, I would suggest we don't make it part of the zoning ordinance, that we just make it a separate standalone part of our taxation ordinance.
And one other thing, Mr. White, if I
Yeah,
could
good.
just add on, you also had a lot of discussion, how would we get word out? And Lori and I have talked about that and thought it through. I haven't talked to the treasurer, but one of the things is that there's this universe of folks that do this, and then there's everybody else. And if we were to use a notice through, say, the tax bill, that may capture a universe that has no earthly idea what's going on. It would generate a lot of questions. And so what we're going to have to do is to figure out how we get notice to those. And Lori and I brainstormed. I know the bed and breakfast folks have ideas. I think I'm pretty comfortable that we would, through our tourism businesses, through everybody, the realtors, we would be able to get word out, particularly through social media, through our platforms, our web-based platforms, but also I think a lot with word of mouth will help a lot. So we will come with you with a formal way of communicating all this prior to your adoption of this, if that's where you're going to go. Then I'm done.
One of the things, a couple of things I want to mention about this. I've had people contact me who think that we are imposing a new tax, which we are not doing, correct?
No, the tax is there, people just aren't paying
Right.
it.
People that think that we are putting on some new regulation, which we're not doing, correct?
No, all of this, the only thing we're
I
doing
got
is.
a thing going
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry. No, we're not.
You get to say yes or no.
No new regulation.
So the whole point here is simply that we are, people that are already supposed to be paying this tax, we're trying to make it easier for them to comply with that.
Correct, and motivate those who might try and skirt
Right.
the tax.
So I think it's important everybody understands that. This is not some new, we're not really putting anything new in place in terms of regulation or taxation. We're just trying to make it a little easier for people to comply with already existing rules. I'll also mention, and this is not directly linked to this, but, you know, I had another person who sort of knew in general we were going to be talking about this. And this is, you know, proof that there's always offshoots to these situations that come up, where he owns a piece of property, which there's a right-of-way that goes through his cow pasture to get back to this house. That house is now being used as a Airbnb, so every week he's got a new person that he has to go out and explain that you can't drive 40 miles an hour through here because there's, you know, a cow will probably step out in front of you. So, you know, I mean, that's not connected with this precisely, but it may be something that we want to look at if there's some way we can deal with that type of situation. I'm thinking about right-of-ways, and, you know, we got a right-of-way that was intended for a single family homeowner to get back and forth to their house, and now it's basically a right-of-way that's being used to access a business, essentially.
Oh, so he does not own this house, nor the right-of-way you're talking about? The farm?
Well, yeah, he owns the right-of-way, but somebody's got the right-of-way to go across his property, but it's still his property. So it's not fenced off, it's not a dedicated
Right,
right-of-way.
right.
It goes out across his cow pasture. And, you know, it's like if they were renting it out, you know, by the year, it wouldn't be so bad to have to explain this to people. You know, every week, or maybe even more often than that, he's got to be out there explaining to people that, you know.
Is there a silo at the beginning of this entrance?
I don't know, I actually haven't been out there, but it's in my district, but yeah.
I guess some additional discussion about how this is, how we're going, not so much about just how we get the word out, but how this is gonna work. I mean, the way it's written now, there's a role for both the zoning administrator and clearly the commissioner of revenue. And as I read the administration enforcement paragraph, I couldn't envision how this would actually work, for lack of a better description.
Well, it doesn't have to be the zoning administrator, that's just who we plugged in there, it could be.
Let's assume it's the county administrator or designee, okay?
But I'm not,
I guess where I was going with the commissioner is, once we're aware, if somebody says, I want to register, I didn't know about this, want to register, then they would complete this form and get with the commissioner and fill out the paperwork and then start collecting and transmitting the tax. If I were, or designee became aware of one that wasn't on the list, then we would send, essentially a letter saying this registry is a county requirement. Here's the form, here's the process that you go through in order to begin collecting and transmitting the tax.
so under that scenario, we would treat this almost like any other tax, where the commissioner of revenue would have the responsibility for this ordinance.
I'm looking at Ms. Pope.
I believe that was a yes.
I mean, is that, this can't be left undecided. There has to be, at some point, that someone has the responsibility and needs to develop the process for implementing this.
Well, I think, again, I'm gonna be repeating myself. You know, someone had contacted me at some point, and pointed out that, you know, there are other businesses in the county that are operating that aren't paying taxes. But most of them aren't on the internet advertising the ware. Some of them may be, but, you know, but yes, I mean, someone could can come into the county and start a business, and they might exist for years without anybody finding out.
Sure.
Because, we don't have, Commissioner Revenue's office doesn't have an enforcement arm that they send out to knock on people's doors and make sure that they're paying their taxes. So I mean, all of this is honor-based to, a great extent. But in this case, we've had this whole industry mushroom up and become, you know, they're advertised all over the world. So it's a little different, different situation.
And I guess that's one of the reasons for my question is, do we need more of an enforcement aspect to this than just the Commissioner of Revenue's typical, you know, efforts?
Well, if you-
And I don't know what it would be.
But if you do more enforcement on this issue, then you're gonna have to do more enforcement on all the other issues.
Yeah,
And who knows how many issues that would be.
That's right.
Well, so I think that depends on how you define enforcement, in the way we have this written.
I didn't define it
Well,
yet.
the way
I
we have this,
noticed that.
the way we have this written, it simply says, all Airbnbs have a duty to register with us. Okay, we have no way of, we're not gonna go hunt those Airbnbs, we're not gonna look for them.
Right.
Unless we determine that there is one presented.
Right, if
on the
it comes
web,
to our attention.
And then we would give
So-
a notice of the registry, and the commissioner would then be able,
Well, you just sent, first you'd send them a letter.
Yeah.
You'd say, you're required by Orange County Code, section XY, to register, you have not registered, here's the form, you need to immediately register. She'll have a list of the registered Airbnb, so her, it's just the collection side, it's no different than what she does now. So on our end, it's the sending of the letter, if they don't register, it's the sending of the $500 fine, and if they continue to not register, it's a cease and desist letter.
But who does that?
And that, the way this is structured, well, right now we have it listed as a zoning administrator, but it doesn't have to be that person.
Could be the county
You could say
attorney.
county administrator or
or,
designee.
you know, the county attorney involved. I mean, let me give it another fact situation.
But you're getting to my point.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't say it's this or that, or it could
No,
be, or it might be, or something.
Well,
I
we
would
could
need
have
to say-
Allison do it.
Well, let me ask Renee,
You have the District Two supervisor do it.
Yeah, we gotta, or not.
for meals tax, a restaurant opens up, they don't contact you, it comes to your attention, you will contact them and say, here's an obligation to pay the meals tax, here's the process you go through. So you do that level of follow-up once something comes to your attention that's not there. So I see this kind of similar as the point of contact. If we become aware of this, I mean, you could even send the form, may give notice out, it wouldn't necessarily come.
Well, I guess that, it seems to me that in a normal case, if we could, and I know you don't want a lot of additional work, that if your office could implement this ordinance, where there are cases of noncompliance that are, you know, that become a problem,
That there's complaints.
that, yeah, that's right,
Right.
and you get no response, or you can't resolve the issue, then the
Then it
county
becomes my
attorney
office,
needs to
yeah.
be involved. But I mean, it seems to me that this should be placed in one place. I think your office is the correct place for that. But for the outliers that are problems, where you involve the county attorney, I mean,
Right.
why can't we do it? I mean, is there some
We can,
reason
no,
we
no, we
can't?
can change that.
Well, we haven't had that conversation with,
Well, we're
I think we
having it
just
now.
did.
And Jay's trying to stay out of the way, so. Cause you don't know what's going on behind you.
but Renee, this, for the meals tax or sales, I mean, it's really no different than what you do
It's
now.
really not. It's similar to the meals tax as far as.
It sort of, back to the earlier point you made, Mark, this really is simply an implementation of an already existing set of policies and taxes. And so therefore, that's where it
I think
should
y'all
reside.
might get a lot of feedback on it though, because we had a gentleman call the other day and apparently it's gone through the grapevine. He's a farmer, and he's not
It was in the-
happy about.
Yeah, it was in the paper, it was fairly well explained in the paper.
Was.
So,
Now, somebody
they never,
contacted me about, saying that you had to live on the property. I didn't see anything in there about this. Am I totally blind?
No,
We're not addressing that.
no, we're not addressing that. All-
It's, you know,
No, all this is putting some meat on state law, that they're already legally obligated to pay these taxes.
Right.
They just aren't. And all we're doing is putting some mechanisms in place to motivate people to pay what they legally owe, and as our friends here in the B&B industry, to eliminate that unfair competition, that they're doing it without paying taxes and without any awareness that they're even out there doing it. And so that's the whole point of the registry, is to create that identification.
And if it goes to the commissioner's office, that sounds very sensible and easy to do. 'Cause I saw the head shake a few times in the right direction, so.
We never had that kind of, we never had that sidebar discussion between me and the commissioner of the county.
But the time was up.
Yeah.
So it sounds like with some minor redrafting, that this could be cast to reside with the.
Sure.
The responsibility authorities reside with the commissioner.
Extremely minor redrafting, yes.
And is that something that we would adopt?
You need a public
Public
hearing
hearing.
and,
We would have to involve the planning commission, I guess, at that.
No, we
no,
don't.
it would not, it's a
No,
standalone.
if we're switching it to the commissioner's office, we're gonna put it in the taxation section.
I mean, that seems to me to be the
Sensible.
most straightforward way of doing it.
Works fine.
Particularly if it fits with what you're already doing, in essence.
I'm afraid what I owe her back now, so.
I'll move her here so she can't see me.
Well, you give her some share of the fine
That's it.
for her.
Yeah, we want a commission out of this. All right, you got enough direction?
Yeah, I've got what we need.
Okay, all right. Any other comments on this one?
That's good.
All right.
So, when will you be bringing this back to us?
Well, do you want us to go ahead and just schedule it for public hearing, or do you wanna see it again first?
Why don't you bring it back to us?
Okay,
We'll have it on the
next,
28th.
we'll have it on the next agenda.
Okay, and then we'll presumably at that point schedule
It would
public.
probably be
There
the.
are a number of people wanna know,
Yeah,
so.
well-
It would
We'll
probably
bring
be
it
the
back
end of
next agenda.
September meeting, second meeting in September.
If we bring it back for you all to discuss at your next meeting on the 28th, the earliest we could schedule it for is the second meeting in September.
And you also had an announcement?
Oh,
Or a-
yes,
or a
sir.
pair of
My last-
announcements?
Yes, sir. I'm pleased to report to the board that offers of employment and acceptance for our new fire and EMS chief, Nathan Mort, who's been employed with the county since 2007. He's been serving as interim chief of fire and EMS since January. And we had 30 applicants for that position. It was nationwide. We had them from all over. And pleased to report Nathan, certainly the panel that I had brought together to interview and helped me through the process, it was unanimous that he was the most qualified candidate. And then on our Emergency Communications Center Director, pleased to report we're hiring Dominic Curry. She's a 12-year employee of the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office. She's a senior dispatch supervisor there, comes with high marks from the sheriff in Spotsylvania County, and she'll start on August 27th, Monday, August 27th, as our new Emergency Center, Communications Center Director. And I'll make arrangements for them to come introduce themselves formally to the board.
Okay,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Let's see if we can finish up here before our closed meeting. Any board comment?
I think there's been plenty.
I would agree with that. Any questions on the information items?
Actually, I did have one quick thing.
Yeah, sure.
Out in front of where I do my day job, we have these wonderful collection sites for recyclables. I just want to pass on how much displeasure I get when I find people leaving crap there, for which we have to then pay a county employee to go back out and haul stuff off that could have been taken to the landfill to begin with, like the exercise bike, and just waste everybody else's tax money. I'm just, the laziness just disgusts me, so.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as throwing it out along the side of the road. Kind of, it's the same
And
mindset.
not to mention, that property is not owned by the county. That property is right-of-way that belonged to the company I work for.
Funny you should mention that. apparently we have quite a spate of it going on. I came into the shop Thursday morning to find a sleeper sofa in the middle of my parking lot.
So
I
your
heard about
current
that.
furnishings maybe.
What's that?
I heard about that from the sheriff's office.
Okay, yes, yeah, that was nice. Luckily, I'd already scheduled a landfill run on Saturday, so it was, in that sense, reasonably convenient, but still.
Maybe it fell off the Clampett's truck.
Yeah, that's right.
Very inconsiderate, to say the least. On that note, I have a constituent that has an 11-year-old daughter that I believe was covered in the Orange Review. They'd gone for a walk, and the daughter took a trash bag with her. And since then, they've collected trash a number of times, and it's interesting, the displeasure that this 11-year-old had is almost identical to what I just heard sitting up here. And when an 11-year-old child can go out and do litter control and have the foresight and understanding, it
Says something about the rest of the,
really does.
It's disrespect for the community.
Yep.
oh, yeah. No,
I did have, one other thing. Since the Orange firefighters have, for the
Oh,
15th year
yeah,
in a row,
that's right.
won,
Absolutely.
I think we should have a resolution and
Yeah.
bring them back in, like
I
we do
agree.
every year, because
Yeah.
they keep
No, no,
winning ever
that's
since
right.
I've been on the board.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, he wasn't here.
Now I'm done.
That's all right. We're good. Let's see, any appointments to boards and commissions? And no calendar items, so, all right.
All right. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Orange County desires to discuss a closed meeting the following. Discussion and consideration of the assignment and performance of certain county employees of the public body and assignment of certain duties to new staff member. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose with respect to the radio system and the broadband project, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of public body. And in consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring division of legal advice by such counsel concerning a right-of-way agreement, archiving of text messages, airport zonings, staff safety concerns, and issues at the animal shelter. And whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 3711A1, A3, and AA to the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Orange County does hereby authorize discussion of four-stated matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in closed.
And
I heard that.
Sitting here tonight.
Members of the board, to the best of your knowledge, were the only matters discussed in the closed meeting, public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and that only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. Mr. Crozier?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Frame is absent. Mr. White?
Aye.
And Mr. Goodwin?
Aye.
4-0.
All right, good. Let's see, I think we actually have done everything except public comment. Anybody signed up for public comment?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman?
We'll close public comment.
I move that the meeting be adjourned for no further business.
Second.
And, okay, all in favor? Pack up.
Aye.
Aye.
Pack up and head out. Aye.